Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising as we deepen our exploration of the extraordinary experience that about 60 of us had a couple of weeks ago in Wilmington, North Carolina. As Bertie Jaworski, who is the founder of transdimensional mapping and one of the most gifted and well-known remote viewers in the world, came together with Chris Bledsoe, and the combination of learning remote viewing during the day and going out with Chris Bledsoe, who you all know is the great ET experiencer who's been studied probably by more different three-letter agencies in the US government than maybe anyone, for his capacities, his facilities in resonating with unidentified anomalous phenomena that manifest themselves as orbs. You've all heard of the orbs, and every night we went out with Chris to the beach and saw dozens and dozens of orbs, some close, some far, some that streaked overhead, some that just maintained stationary presence right above the sea level out into the ocean, sometimes appearing in twos and threes and fours and fives in different parts of the night sky. It was an extraordinary experience altogether. And all my years of both teaching and organizing courses at Ubiquity University, some 20 years now, as of this year, this is my 20th anniversary with the university. This course was one of the most impactful because it went from knowledge and intuition and theoretical speculation to direct experience. You know, when one has a direct experience with remote viewing, for example, and gets the assignment, virtually 100% accurately, one opens up in one's psyche and soul. One has a deeper sense of awareness of human potential. And when one bears witness to orbs in the sky at night, one's soul is also enlarged to include the cosmic dimension, particularly as Chris was telling us each evening, don't forget, you're looking at the orbs, and the orbs are looking at you. And whether you're conscious or not, they're sending messages to you. They're instilling information into you. And that was an extraordinary thing to take in. So we wanted to deepen our conversation and exploration of this extraordinary event by inviting one of the students that was there, Mari Castle, who is well acquainted with Ubiquity University, having gotten her PhD some years ago on the goddess Inanna and the story of the Epic of Gilgamesh. I had the privilege of being her content advisor, since the story of Inanna and Gilgamesh is very deeply important to me. It was a part of my own PhD dissertation many, many years ago. So Mari is a holotropic breathwork practitioner and certified holotropic breathwork practitioner with the Groff Legacy training. She's also a psychotherapist and practitioner of various forms of breathing. She was there. She's going to be talking about an upcoming course that we've invited her to teach in our extraterrestrial studies program. So we thought, for both reasons, both because she was there and had her own deep illuminating experiences during and since. And because she's going to be faculty for an upcoming course with our ET Studies program, we would invite her on. But let's start, Mari, with just a summary of your experiences during the week and anything you want to say about what's happened to you subsequently with your dreams and so forth, because it was clearly as powerful for you as it was for me, and I think most other people who were participating.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. And it's just like the timing is perfect, right? To segue the Beyond Mapping in-person course and all of that with the return of the Anunnaki course coming up in September. At least it is for me in my mind, because I thought I had a lot of experiential knowledge, having done holotropic breath work, starting out doing that back in 1999, and many, many, many experiences. I don't know, I lost count of how many holotropic breath work and non-ordinary states of consciousness experiences I've had. But this one really blew the top off, So, definitely word is ineffable. And I've been feeling the expansion of the energy just continuously. And it's just amazing. It feels like a heightened state of awareness, like ongoing. So like non-ordinary state of consciousness now is non-ordinary. So I don't mean to get too, eccentric with it, but it really had a big effect on me. And that was so surprising because, like I said, I've already, just deepening into holotropic breath work and where one can go with those experiences, right? Like definitely like traveling through dimensions. So between the remote viewing and tapping into the right brain and accessing all of that subconscious material, and while we were practicing, getting all of these insights, and then learning that like you're right on, or you're close, or you're getting it right when Birdie does the reveal in the class after we do some time with the mapping, was like phenomenal in and of itself for me. Like I'll never doubt my thoughts and intuition again. And then with Chris Bledsoe and the night sky watching was seeing the orbs, like undeniable. We were all there. We saw them all together. And then beyond, when people left and more orbs came, like they greeted us and they walked us out the door and said, okay, see you later. They were always there at the end too. I know that last night it was pretty amazing. Some people shared of what happened when they were leaving and the two big orbs came out on the horizon. It was like probably midnight, I think. And the orbs were there and they were walking up the steps, off the beach. And then Rainey told me this, that Chris's phone went off to the music of the song that the lady, that he calls the lady, played for him. So that too is just like, what? While the orbs are out there, they're walking up. There's like probably maybe I think 10 or 12 of them leaving at the same time. And Chris' phone is in his pocket and the Stairway of Heaven song goes off. So I just find that like, just undeniable, right? So we kind of have to rethink everything when you consider all of that. It's like, it's just blown my mind. My mind has been just open to so many different possibilities and perspectives. And I don't want to keep going on and on, but just like these thoughts are kind of streaming forward. Like, for
Sure.
example, why are we fearful of extraterrestrial or aliens, whatever word or name we call them, and all the different cultural names, um, when we don't even communicate with animals, but we communicate with animals. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't have our language, but yet we can communicate with animals through different signals. So I find it fascinating that this is another species in our um, field of awareness, and we've been told that they're what we've been told for the most part. The majority is they're there to help us. There may be um, other forces at play, like everything, So it's the full paradoxical spectrum always. But from what I think the big gist of what we got last week with all of us is we just have like this overwhelming sense of love and joy and awareness, um, and like a raised, heightened frequency or something. Not that it's better or, like uh, different, but I think that we're spreading it also to other people through us. Is that like too mind blowing or
No, no, no,
too far
no.
out there?
I think what I will do, I'll make a comment, but I want to just explain everyone a little more about what Mari was saying about Chris Bledsoe's cell phone, just so people have a larger context. When he met uh, the lady, which is how he refers to her, she told him in one of their encounters that she and other celestial beings were far more intimately involved in human affairs than one might think. And she identified 5 songs, three from Led Zeppelin, I believe, one from Metallica, one from Neil Young, where she said that they provided the lyrics. And she recommended that Chris study the lyrics and just see how, again, how intimately they're involved in the refinement of human consciousness. And one of those songs was Stairway to Heaven. Another one is When Love Walks In. And I think the Neil Young song is After the Gold Rush. So if you look at the lyrics of those songs, they're quite specific. Von Halen was another one of the groups. And so as it turned out, Chris and his son Ryan and I had been talking about these because there's several people from these bands that might come to the State of the World Forum. Because when Chris realized the background and the larger context for these songs, he's been in touch with these groups and they've been blown away that they were instruments of a higher feminine intelligence and presence. And so there was an active discussion. And at the end, as Mari said, when Chris was leaving the beach, his phone had been off for several hours because he turns it off when he goes out to the beach so he's not distracted. The phone came spontaneously back on, and when those last orbs on the last night were appearing as they were leaving the beach, and his phone not only turns on, activates Stairway to Heaven, and played it as sort of a grand finale. I mean, this is what was happening, everybody. And that's why when Mari says it kind of blew the lid off, we were having not just one experience, but multiple experiences, both at the remote viewing level and at the orb level, that just made reality more palpable, not only in terms of our unconscious, our subconscious that we activate for remote viewing, but our capacity to witness external events from the heavens in a way that corresponds to time, space, and causality, which is the limited little frame we humans have for the most part for experiencing the larger reality. So it was quite impressive. But you may want to comment on that, Mari, but be very interesting. It'll be very interesting for people to have you talk a little bit more about your experience of the remote viewing, because I think that's an astonishing experience in and of itself, to realize that your subconscious is as accurate as we know it is, but somehow we don't trust it to be. So say more about that.
Yes, exactly. That's perfect because, so let me just share that I was considering this course when I heard about it. I listened to the Humanity Rising talk with Contact in the Desert, and Birdie came on and shared. And I was like, my ears like, like I want to know more about that. And when I read about the course, I thought, wow, that's really interesting. The remote viewing. I want to check that out because I got it. And having accessed a lot of right brain consciousness and energy through going into non-ordinary states and having experiences, I thought, well, this would be really cool. Nothing else. Fun thing to practice and check out. And I just was like incredibly amazed at how much material that I was picking up and that I did get. And, it really was from the beginning, and everybody was getting material that was pointing towards the, maybe some of you already know how it works, but Birdie and Jen had the image or event or person in mind and had it in their screen, and then they give us a number. Just that's it, a number. And then we start getting like thoughts or words or visuals. So, you kind of think, oh, I'm making this up. Where's it coming from? A lot of it's not coherent. It feels very chaotic, kind of scattered in your brain. But then the coherence comes when the reveal, they give the image on the screen or the person. So, for example, like we did the body scan on, we later were told at Ozzy Osbourne's death, like being there at his death. And I was like, okay, we do like a little body scan, like a little gingerbread. And then I'm familiar with the chakras. So that was really easy for me to go down the energy chakras and pick things up. And right away, I felt the heart energy was blocked. There was something going on there, a heart issue. And then legs swollen. And, I don't want to go into that too much for Ozzy Osbourne, but I really was picking up on it. And it was just so surprising for me. Also with the astronauts, that I was feeling what the astronauts experience when they are in space, like this malaise, like this heaviness, like all the words that I wrote were pointing to exactly what they would experience and feel. So I had a lot of that more feeling kind of sense. When we went the racetrack, it was like feeling the earth under my feet, so like all these words I wrote down, the greyhound dogs racing, I was feeling the pause on the earth. It was just amazing to go through that. And then, I can hardly even like review it. I have all of my pictures still. I want to do what it's called deconstruction, but I'm like a little afraid to, even tap in anymore. And then the last day, the last session, I was picking up of like purple, then flashing light. And, I'm just kind of fast forwarding. So putting it together, I was like, purple flashing light, that's the orbs that we saw. So right away, I'm drawing orbs on my paper. And then above that, I have like the water, because I felt the water where we were on the beach. And the reveal was the Ubiquity University students in class, seeing the orbs with Chris Bledsoe this last week. So when she said that, I was like, I wanted to jump up and down. I was like, I got it. So yeah, it was just incredible. And then how it tied together with our experience. It was just like, I don't know, it couldn't have been more easily, like an integration of two things. Just, it couldn't have been any better than that. So yeah.
Just a final comment, then we can go on to these broader issues. But I think one of the things that I was the most struck by is the purity of heart and sincerity of both Bertie and Chris. We two faculty that as the scriptures say, were without guile. They were just fully present in a loving, authentic way, so that everyone felt honored, everybody felt recognized, everybody felt like they were approachable. And so I think the quality of their characters helped to hold the week together and make it a real safe invitation for people to explore the unknown.
100%. Yeah. 1,000%. Yeah, they were amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, both of them. Very, very much approachable and just genuine, authentic human, like in their experiences being also, what they both for years have been experiencing in their own personal lives, and with Chris and everything, and Bertie's past experience. Yeah, that also was really amazing and incredible. And so I want to share, why I really wanted to come to the class was because when Chris was on, when there was the AI week that you did on Humanity Rising, like about a year ago, and I found that really interesting because I've been paying attention to all of that. And I heard Chris share from, I think he was in his work space, and I don't know, just he had that same presence of just heartfelt, right? Like you felt connected to him even through that presentation. And he was talking about the lady. And I was like, the lady? I think that's Inanna. I was really like that. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to assume that, but that's what I'm feeling and I'm getting, right? So I really came to ask him personally, face to face, if he thought that, if he has heard of Inanna, right? If he thinks there's any affiliation of the lady to Inanna. So we're on the beach Friday night, and I'm kind of, I get kind of shy in big groups, and so I don't like to really share a lot in big groups. But when I'm presenting, it's different for me. So I just had a moment with him on the beach, and I said, Chris, I just, saw you on what I just explained. And when you shared that, I thought that it's Inanna, the Queen of Heaven and Earth is how I know her, was her Sumerian title, the Queen of Heaven and Earth. And he goes, it's the same lady. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was so happy because he affirmed what I thought And, it's like the goddess of 1,000 names, right? We don't have to necessarily put a particular title. It's the energy, the divine feminine, goddess of love, fertility, right? And just that care, that wanting to hold humanity, or just has humanity's best interest at heart. And I've always felt that with Inanna. So I'll just segue into my experience of Inanna. Goes back to 2000, 1999, even, when I first experienced holotropic breath work. And I had this experience that felt like divine feminine energy. So, I wasn't really sure, but fast forward then a couple years, I went ahead and did the holotropic breath work again with Stan Groff. And I remember being in my one experience where I felt like underground, like I was in a dark space and was kind of underground. And then I'm just giving you a quick snippet, that there was like some box that I heard a voice then, and this is holotropic breathwork, right? You go into this non-ordinary state, and so you hear or see different things that are abstract or, beyond conception even. And I heard open the box, and I was like, kind of creepy down here in this like dark space and underworld, and I'm just new to all of this non-ordinary states and everything. So, but then it was kind of like, they told me all I have to do is open my eyes, so okay, I'll open the box, and this purple hue comes out in my mind and envelops me like this cloud-like energy, like kind of totally just envelops me and lifts me up beyond into the light. So then we're like dancing around, free, like free expression, movement in the light. And I said, "Who are you?" Because I recognized her presence earlier on in my other experiences. And I hear Inanna, Aynanya. And I wrote that on my mandala. And then it would be like a year later when somebody that I came in contact, was just sharing and said, "Oh, you have the name spelled differently. It's actually Inanna." I'm fast forwarding really fast because I don't want to go too far into the story, but I found Inanna through the book by Samuel Noah Kramer and Diane Wolkstein, the Queen, Inanna, the Queen of Heaven and Earth. And when I started reading that, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is all aligning with the symbolism and the metaphor and the narrative of the holotropic breathwork experiences I've had. And you have to understand, I grew up in the Midwest, I have a bachelor's in accounting, I was raised Catholic, no clue about any of this stuff. So the holotropic breathwork really, tilted my lens in a big way. And ever since, just been connected to the energy and presence of Inanna in my, I guess we could say, my subconscious, if we're thinking on that realm, right? But yeah, and I've written both my books and my dissertation research, as steepening into Gilgamesh. And so I want to bring all of that to my course that's coming up in September, The Return of the Anunnaki, because Inanna is actually Anunnaki from the cosmic realms, how the Sumerian culture saw these top deities, pantheon of this Sumerian culture, which would also be On, the sky god, Enlil, the god of wind, which I have a lot to say about, that not in a good way necessarily. Enki, the god of wisdom, who was supportive of Inanna in her interest in developing humanity, to the level that she had seen was possible, the potential of humanity. And
Let
then
me, Mari, set a context for why this story is important for an extraterrestrial studies program. Let's go into that.
the Anunnaki are considered cosmic beings. So in that viewpoint, then why wouldn't they be also extraterrestrial or aliens from 5,000 years ago? I mean, we have this knowledge already that these cultures, these ancient cultures, had experiences of people in the sky, right? The chariots and everything. And so the Anunnaki then came to Earth in an effort to create, the connection of human beings with the cosmic realm. In my view, I could deepen into that, but that's how I see it.
Yeah, and I think the reason why this is important is because the Anunnaki myth and the Sumerian civilization, in many ways, is a prototype for dozens of variations of the theme that exist around the world in deep antiquity, of the visitation of the gods, the extraterrestrials, intelligences far more advanced than we humans that appeared out of the celestial realms, with an intent to in some way change us and either genetically modify us or transform us in some way. And the Anunnaki myth has particular importance because it talks about conflict amongst the gods, conflict amongst the extraterrestrials, as to what to do with these humans. And you see this in Zeus and Prometheus. You see it with Quetzalcoatl in the Mesoamerican myth, the Mayan myth. You see it in the Mahabharata in India. There's this collective memory, sort of like the flood. There's hundreds of memories that we went through a flood, and humanity was almost wiped out. And there are many variations of the theme, but the Anunnaki myth is also representative of another memory, that before even the flood, there was this human divine interface and disagreements among the divinities as to what to do with us humans. And so I just wanted, and that's what Mari is going to be dealing with in her course, is the Anunnaki phenomenon within this larger Inannian archetypal Jungian framework. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that out. Now, do you have any other comment on that in terms of context?
Well, that's perfect. And I love how you articulate. So thank you for helping me spell that out. Yes, and it's that's what I say. I have a lot to say about Enlil, because he and Inanna have what was known as well, it was the conflict at Mount Ebih, Ebih, and then there's the poem, the sacred poem that was written, the loud thundering storm. So they literally, had it out, kind of experience on the mountain of who would prevail. Because Inanna's interest in humanity was to continue with having a direct connection of divinity, right? Like you're saying, the genetic engineering and all of that. So more insights have come to me since last week that I'm super excited about to bring to the course. and it's just all makes sense for me now. But particularly with Enlil, there's a lot to say. That story moves into the Babylonian culture, and that's Marduk with Tiamat, and that she's like the dragon goddess, divine feminine, and they have it out, and she destroys Tiamat, and that's when the separation of heaven and earth. It literally says he separated earth from heaven, and like it's a good thing. So I think it's time to reclaim that, and we'll be talking about that that intention, of the deities of the Sumerian culture, and like Inanna. Enki, the god of wisdom as well, was very much in favor of moving that connection that humans have to their energetic, spiritual connection to the cosmic realms, to the higher self, however you want to say it, to our inner divinity. We hear it all the time now, more than ever, that we are gods and goddesses. Mm-hmm. We have that power within us. That's where, go right to the remote viewing, like that. We do have that capacity. Everyone in the room was experiencing it, right? So that's undeniable, and that's where it's just like, so what I was thinking is that's what we've been told, that we don't have that capacity. We've been programmed over these thousands of years of patriarchal era that we are lesser than, or not enough, or I don't know, a lot of words come to mind that people can relate to, but also that, that we don't have that capacity. And if we do, we're crazy, right? Or we're, mm-hmm. we're hallucinating, we make things up. The witches, the era, all of that. So it's fascinating to tie it all together for me in my mind right now. And that's why I said, like, really excited to bring this into the course of having been there in person, and then bring all of this that ties in with the Anunnaki as, extraterrestrial, right? So that's how I see it. I've always saw it like that. And throughout my research of now it's going on 20 years, the Sumerian culture. But then when I was writing my dissertation, I just didn't want to get off on that track, because it wasn't necessarily considered, researchable, or there was no evidence like that.
It was not a legitimate area of study back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Now it is, thanks to Ubiquity University. I love it. Yeah. So bringing all that forward is very exciting for me, especially with what I've always felt, what I was getting of the message from Inanna as Queen of Heaven and Earth, bringing that together, right? And so I can just keep talking. If you have something to say, go ahead. But with the sacred marriage ritual, it just makes sense now that was really intended to, it was always, but with the king and the goddess. But the sacred marriage ritual was the ritual that was an annual spring ritual. It's a New Year's ritual, but I see springtime was the new year when they celebrated in the Sumerian culture, with fertility and blossoming, and just like the freshness and the sparkly bright new year, right? So bringing all that energy forth, and the ritual was connecting the king of the city-state, or the land particularly. So Dumuzi was one of the, that was mostly noted, with Dumuzi, King Dumuzi in Uruk, marrying with Inanna, or merging or uniting, we could say those words, with Inanna through this ritual. where they went, you know, was in the temple of the ziggurat, like, you know, the ziggurat, like bring up closer to the sky. Very sacred ritual that then was celebrated with all people throughout the land. It was meant to bring fertility, prosperity, thriving civilization. And, you know, all of that was so successful. The Sumerian culture did thrive on, they thrived on the energy of nature. They thrived on feminine and masculine balance, like throughout their everyday practice. So I talk about this a lot because of my second book well, both books, but the second one is The Sacred Union, Connecting the Masculine and Feminine Within. And right now, I need to just drop in that I actually have my podcast is called The Goddess Breath, because I have so much experience with breath work. You know, I'm like, how do I tie all this experience I have with holotropic breath work with Inanna and the Sumerian culture? I really see it as you know, I feel the connection to the Sumerian culture collectively, not just with the experience of Inanna. And that it's, now I kind of lost the Goddess Breath podcast. So I put the two together. So I do little breathing practices, you know, just to remind people to breathe. I feel like we're birthing in a new era. Breathing is important. We should be focusing on our conscious intentional breaths every day. So in the podcast right now, I've just, you know, I do some pre-recording, and I have like 3 episodes that are coming out that are going to talk about the integration of the masculine and feminine with Jungian's individuation, that conceptual perspective of the masculine and feminine integration, right? Of the anima and animus that Jung clearly, you know, is very, it was part of his, it was so important, right? To really emphasize that, like bringing those energies together. So simply, in my mind, you know, the masculine and feminine energies. And that's when individuation happens, when you bring those together, those energies within. So we'll be talking about that in the course as well. But yeah, I mean, it's just really fun for me to be talking about all this, and then, you know, to be combining it with the breath work. And
I think there's also, you know, the issue of remembering. You know, Chris mentioned that several times, that it's not about knowledge, it's about remembering. That his experience of the lady, his experience of the orbs, it's reconnecting him with the deeper primordial memories of humanity. You know, that the lady isn't some abstraction, but that she emanated from Egypt, from Mesopotamia. And so that's another part of, I think, is of the importance of a course like yours, to recall to present time, primordial time, because we've been here before. And we're discovering, as if for the first time, that we are not alone and that we can't make it alone. But this is actually a recursive cyclic pattern in human history, going back millennia of time. And so the Anunnaki story is paradigmatic because it's so ancient, and it's relevant because it feels to us that this old story is absolutely new.
yeah. Yeah.
And so say something about that as we wrap up here, and then Mari will join everyone for the after chat. But say a little bit about your experience. It's the holotropic breath work as well, is that it enables one to remember.
Yes, thank you. Right, so that's what I was saying, what my first experiences, and having no idea that there was even a Sumerian culture. So then how do you decipher this material that you get in your
Mm.
psyche through holotropic breath work? And I just like well, Stan Groff is just, his research was profound, is actually what led me into my interest in transpersonal psychology. And even, through my PhD with Ubiquity University, and that the archetypal realms, right? Connecting to the archetypal realms and what they mean. So drawing in that reflection of what they mean to us. And it's even with animal symbolism, right? So I get a lot of the lion archetype as well. And yeah, that sense of remembering who we are as a collective, even with humanity, right? And that's what I feel like the patriarchal era uh, has done, is wants us to forget and keep us separate and keep us suppressed. When with Inanna as an archetype, she's more than an archetype. We know that, but that she wants us to have that reclamation of our divine self, and that as a collective for humanity to return to our birthright of sovereignty,
Mm.
right? So that's so important, and that's what we're going to go through in the course. But yeah, particularly with holotropic breathwork, I mean, this is the same thing with remote viewing. It's kind of like it's almost, you're in awe. And what a beautiful way to live life, right? To be in awe. I think that is something that we've forgotten about as well, that bringing in awe in our everyday is also hugely important and part of our birthright. And what makes life, more meaningful, right? Instead of just, driven or something. So yeah, I offer holotropic breathwork sessions in Florida, where I am locally. I'll share in the after chat as well. But I have particularly a retreat coming next week. So anybody maybe out west in Oregon that is interested in or likes to fly on a whim of travel, I'm hosting a breathwork and nature retreat on the Oregon coast in next week on the 19th, 20th through the weekend. And there's one space left available. So like I said, anybody on the West Coast that might be interested in that, I can, share. My website is basically breathwork9.com. So it's super simple, but breathwork9.com, that has all that information. And, I mean, there's just, it's kind of with holotropic breathwork, when you have these experiences, it's important to assimilate and find meaning and context, so you can understand and draw from that, and then create more expansiveness in your consciousness, which is going to ripple effect to other people in your field of awareness as well, like the remote viewing, I feel like, and seeing the orbs with Chris Bledsoe. So just really, we'll be getting into a lot of these things that I talked about in the course. I was going to share a little bit of, the 4 weeks, but it's in the, on the page, and in the after chat, I'm happy to answer any questions. But it's going to be really fun, and I hope mind blowing for people as well.
Yeah. The return of the Anunnaki, everyone, archetypes, ETs, and the evolution of consciousness. That's what's coming up in our ET studies program by Dr. Mari Castle. Well, Mari, thank you so much. This is a fascinating domain to remember, so that we can more deeply understand what's going on now.
Yes, absolutely.
So you can join Mari in the after chat. You'll see the link. Stan just put the link in the chat box, and you receive the link in your Zoom reminder for today. And then next Friday, I'll be back, and we'll probably spend some time just summarizing unfolding world events. But for today, luxuriating in this amazing experience that many of us had with Bertie Jaworski and Chris Bledsoe, and then looking forward to a very profound illumination of the prototypical story of primordial ET human contact coming up with Dr. Castle. Thank you, everyone. See you next week. Bye for now.